Turn that damn truth on!
Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And welcome into Inside Arkansas Live here on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I'm your host, John Neighbors, alongside Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis, and appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend, as we're going to talk about all the things that happened from over the weekend, especially with our best and worst of the weekend that we'll dive into. We'll also get into some summer topics of discussion presented by our friends at Freedom Boat Club of Arkansas, get into the chat presented by Basis Health, and, of course, get to anything and everything that you want to discuss here on the show. And also will be very defense heavy, as we just had a chance. That's why we're a little late today. Hear from Travis Williams, the defensive coordinator for the Arkansas Razorback football team. Before we get into that, fellas, hope you had a great weekend. How are the vibes here on this Monday?
The vibes are good, boys. I mean, you guys were talking about this football scrimmage on Saturday. You were defending the honor of Daniel Shee. And, you know, I was sitting in a classroom watching a 60-year-old woman manipulate hacky sack breasts and show me 100 different ways to get milk out of them. So we'll let the people decide who won the weekend, but I'm very happy to be back with the two of you today.
I'm very happy to be back too. If I am allowed, can I just start with a quick little miniature rant? You can put a timer on me if you need. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here, because I'm in a great mood as well. We can't get in our feelings this week, everybody. We have to be able to discuss this football team, discuss the pros and cons, discuss the strengths and weaknesses, and let's do it in a fun, informative manner. It doesn't have to be life or death every conversation we have. If we think Mike Washington is a cool, fun story, it doesn't mean we think Sam Pittman should keep his job forever. If we think the D-line has some concerns, it doesn't mean we think the team's going to suck. Stop yelling at us every day. Let's just talk some ball and have some fun. And we want to hear from you guys, the fans. We want to hear your perspective, and we can go back and forth. But we don't have to get crazy, man. Saturday, just reading the comments from John and I stream Saturday, people are not happy with us and not happy about everything.
You were saying?
Yeah, I mean, literally, when the show hadn't even started, like literally, we're 2 minutes into the show. Literally, John's just like, "Hey, let's have a great day, everybody. We're having a great day here on Inside Arkansas." And it's like, do you not realize that the offense, it's like, what are we upset about already, man?
I'm ready for more.
Yeah. Hey, listen, that's just know that you're getting closer and closer to the football season starting up. 12 days, right? 12 days, a week from this Saturday, Razorback football. So if you can't find any sort of positivity or any sort of fun, great vibes, and knowing that a week from this Saturday you have Razorback football, then I don't know what to tell you. But hey, listen, we're going to talk all about it, the goods and the bads. And we'll get to all of your thoughts and opinions on everything as well. Because, again, we'll have some clips to play from Travis Williams in his press conference. Now, before we get into that, I kind of like just getting you guys' takes, because all three of us were on that press conference and got to hear from Travis Williams. And let's be honest about it, because like we talked about on Saturday and really over the past couple of weeks, the Razorback defense, from just what we've heard and what we know, has not had exactly a fall camp that's been stellar. It's been problematic at times. They've been trying to figure out some things on the defensive line and everything, but just where you're at right now and what you heard from Travis Williams today, just what was kind of your biggest takeaways, and not only how he's feeling, but also just the current situation the Razorback defense finds themselves in.
Kind of a mixed bag. It's hard for me to put the entire defense, I think, in the same conversation, because different areas of it I feel extremely different about. For example, I feel really, really good about Arkansas's linebackers. So does Travis Williams. You know what I mean? Like they like the depth there. You've got your three guys that we've talked about so much. And then, we heard about the Andrew Harris kid at the first scrimmage and how he's really coming along. And then it's been Trent Whan, the second scrimmage. And I had by happenstance, I wound up getting some pretty good intel from someone who was at the scrimmage over the weekend. And the one guy on defense, the guy brought to me, is like, "Oh, the FCS transfer linebacker." I was texting you guys about it. I was like, "Well, who the heck is that?" I forgot Trent Whan was at Southern Utah. He just spent the spring at Kent State, but apparently he was flying around all over the place. So feel good about that. Sounds like Travis Williams feels really good about his safeties. So do I. I think that could be a strong suit there for him with the mix of returners and new guys that they have coming in. I'm a little bit more cautious when it comes to corner. And then I have some legitimate, I think, concerns on the defensive line. So like half the defense, I feel like, okay, they really got something to work with here. The other half, still some questions that need to be answered. based on the vibes we got from Travis Williams today, it seems like he probably kind of feels the same.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things that he mentioned was you have a lot of guys on this defense that are going to be in key spots that only have 1 year of eligibility left, which means they've played a lot of football. They have a lot of experience. I mean, Steven Dix, Xavier Sori, even a guy like Caleb Wooden, Miguel Mitchell is getting the coach on the field allegations. Larry Wirt's been playing a while. And so, listen, what Arkansas doesn't have, we can kind of dissect and we can talk about. And, D-line, there's plenty of questions. Corner, I think, you're 100% right. Like, when we talk about secondary, it's really not the secondary overall. It's specifically corner. Safety, there's a lot of options there and a lot of guys that have played a lot of football. It's a lot easier for me to see the vision there. But I think Travis Williams clearly kept going back to those guys that he really trusts, those linebackers that he feels very good about, those guys in the back end who can communicate. And, he even talked about who they're going to put the chip in the helmet that's going to be talking and all that. And they've moved it around with some of those guys because they feel like they have options there. And so I think the hope for Travis Williams and the hope for Razorback fans is that while you figure things out elsewhere, while you figure out your D-line, while you figure out if you have corners that are good enough to play, you can count on these older guys, especially in the first couple of weeks when you're playing, not SEC competition, to kind of carry that and maybe cover some of those woes. And we'll see if Arkansas is able to do that, maybe hide some of their deficiencies. But coming off of the back-to-back scrimmages where it did not go well for the defense, they've got plenty they can work on, but I think the message from Travis Williams today was very much the ability to lean on some of those older guys on the defense, of which there are many. I mean, there's a reason we don't talk about linebacker a ton on this show. There's not a ton for us to talk about. These are very good. These are two guys that we have no doubt about it. Those are your starters. Those are guys you're going to be able to count on. We like Bradley Shaw, and that was another name that kept getting brought up today as someone that they really have a lot of trust in and seems like they have reason to. And so I think that's kind of the hope for Travis Williams, that these older guys can compensate.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's just go ahead and hear from Travis Williams, because he was asked both questions today about the strengths of his defense as well as concerns that he has for his defense. We'll start with the strengths. Here's what he had to say.
You know what? I say the linebackers and defensive backs, we got a lot of experience back there. We have in the defensive back rooms, we got a lot of guys that have 1 year left eligibility. So we have a lot of guys that's played a lot of football. Steven Dix, this is last year eligibility. So you have guys that's been around the block. We have guys with mustaches, so we don't have a lot of young guys. So that's a good thing. So that experience means a lot, when you get up under the lights and get to play big time football. So we definitely going to lean on that experience.
So, of course, having guys with mustaches always means something good. It's always a positive. But yeah, so he doesn't mention D-line, which I know we'll talk about, but talking in specifically about the experience, that's one of the things that it helps. It helps in every sport. It's great to have experience in everything, but it's also about how well you play together, because I don't think Razorback defense, especially in the secondary, is being accused of having just high-level NFL players right now on this roster. However, if they are going to have success this year, it's going to be based on, one, yes, their experience, but also two, their ability to play really well together as a collective unit and stay healthy, of course. And I think, maybe the first scrimmage that they had, one of the biggest issues that they had was communication, which can be fixed. But at least with what Travis Williams is talking about and what he's kind of leaning on, as you said, Andrew, is just having that experience, having the guys that, just not 1 year or 2 year. I mean, some of these guys have played 4 or 5 years even. They're going to lean on that and really hope that that's going to be good enough for them to not only compete in these games, but to be able to slow down some of these pass-heavy offenses that they might be facing this year.
Kind of reminds me of the way that college basketball has shifted a little bit, and John Calipari's had to shift with it some, right? Like in terms of, oh man, I could just go and get 7, freshmen 5 stars or whatever, and go to work, and we're going to be as good as anybody in the country. And now you've seen a lot of schools who really dive in for the transfer portal, and they're prioritizing retention. Then all of a sudden, it's like Cal said, I got a bunch of 18-year-olds out there, and there are guys with their second child in the second row of the stands there. He's 25 years old and all this stuff. That's kind of the approach that I'm seeing here. There's a level of continuity and comfort that you have with Steven Dix, with Xavier Sori, with Larry Wirth, with Miguel Mitchell, all guys that are expected to be very important pieces to the defense for you there. And then you're starting to see like, oh, okay, here's a Trent Whan. It's a guy who's played a lot of football. Which they love to say there. And then on the back end, like a guy like Caleb Wooden, for example, who's been in the SEC and played a lot of meaningful snaps. Are they all great? Not necessarily, but nothing's going to surprise him in this league. He's been there, done that, knows what to expect. Jordan Young from Cincinnati got mentioned. I know it's Big 12, different world, whatever, but has played a lot of football there. So I think that veteran presence compared or combined with the continuity of having a couple pieces back on both levels there is why they probably feel a little bit better about that situation they do elsewhere. I know you got Cam Ball on the defensive line, but outside of that, there's significantly more question marks there. I know you have Jaheim Singletary back at corner, but it didn't necessarily go that well for you the last 2 years that you tried to do this. So you got a lot more things you have to figure out there. It seems like less questions there right up the middle.
Well, and I think, this is going to sound weird coming from someone whose job is to cover the team and we are dependent on these coaches to give us information. What Travis Williams says to the media honestly doesn't matter a whole lot. Of course, we can learn things from it, but like the solutions that they may or may not be able to find are not going to come in things that he's going to reveal to the media. Y'all remember that Tennessee game and why Arkansas just randomly had their best game of the year defensively? It wasn't a coincidence. They went to a completely different defense with a three-man front that they had not run all year, and it was something that they kind of kept in their back pocket of like, hey, we have this deficiency here. Here's how we can accommodate it, and here's how we can implement this against this team. And they completely threw Tennessee off. I mean, it was a complete 180. It was a changeup that they just completely pulled the string on them. And I'm not saying they're going to do that every week and it's just going to work that way every game. But I think there are things that because you think about it in football, if you're playing defense, the ways you can do weird things schematically, a lot of times it involves an extra linebacker or moving a linebacker up and blitzing, or maybe throwing an extra safety on the field and maybe bringing one of those safeties into the box. If there's one, position group you can experiment with, it's linebacker and safety. And so I actually do think there's like something to be taken from that, especially with the experience that these guys have. And so, I think personnel wise, it's not a secret. I mean, if you just listen to Travis Williams talk, you can tell who he likes and who he doesn't like. He likes his linebackers. He likes his safety. He does not like his defensive line. He didn't mention his corner. I'm not saying he definitely doesn't like him, but if we are talking about this and we know kind of the deficiencies that are there on paper, you think Travis Williams doesn't? And so they're going to try and develop. They're going to try and get these guys better. They're going to find solutions. But I think also that's one thing that is going to be a big test for Travis Williams and his staff this year is you kind of know the situation. You know your personnel better than any of us. How do you go about implementing that? How do you find those answers in these specific matchups? And I think week 3 against Ole Miss is a fascinating time period for them to maybe experiment a little bit because you've got a first-year quarterback. You're going to be on the road against a really good play caller. What kind of answers do you have by then to throw something at Ole Miss that maybe they're not ready for? We saw them do this in a very successful way last year. They're going to have to get creative, but we've seen that this staff has that ability to do that. But we've also seen other teams like Ole Miss find solutions and find ways to attack them as well.
And we'll talk about some of the weaknesses as well that Travis Williams talked about this defense. But I want to remind everybody that we're presented by here on Inside Arkansas, our friends at Basis Health, where they're changing the way that healthcare is delivered by providing mobile medical visits to the comfort of your very own home. A doctor will come to your home for urgent care, primary care, IV hydration, and so much more. It's Basis Health. They're here for you when and where you need them the most. You can learn so much more at basishealth.org today. You can also scan that QR code right there on your screen. Shout out to our guy Dre for being partners here with Basis Health and Inside Arkansas. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the strengths, according to Travis Williams, but he was also asked about, I think it was concerns, maybe not the weaknesses, but the concerns that he has on defense. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about anything. Just want to make sure we get all the horses to the race. All the guys, just making sure the guys are fresh and definitely will do that because of the way Coach Pittman practices set up. And ever since I've been here, he's done a great job of getting those guys ready. Just make sure the little nicks and bruises is what I'm talking about, just making sure they all healed. And that'll be the main thing, just making sure we continue to build on the depth.
In the line.
Okay, so just getting people ready, I guess, is pretty much what he was talking about. But to piggyback onto that, the defensive line depth and the defensive line situation, I think, is what we all see. And even when we played that first clip about the strengths of this team, he mentioned linebacker and secondary. That only leaves one unit that he did not mention as to possibly could be that issue. So he was asked about the depth of the defensive line. And also, we'll have back-to-back clips here. Also, who needs to step up on the defensive line.
Yes, we have to continue to establish depth. May need some young guys to step up. And we have guys that's played in SEC ball, but just the depth part of it is definitely a deal that we have to figure out. Young guys is why we recruit, and being able to see those guys play early if they're ready. So we tell the guys, if you're good enough, you're old enough. So, just getting those guys ready. But we'll definitely need some young guys to step up. All of them. I mean, we signed them all to play. So all those guys got to step up, and we'll get Oki back in. We'll get Oki back in the future, so very soon. So I'm not down on that. That's just some camp stuff that happens. And, now it's time for us to see, okay, the next man up, and we'll get Oki back as soon as possible.
So not to get overly negative or anything like that, but man, this defensive line with the depth, with who's needing to step up, which is pretty much everybody. This is a concern. This is a problem. And this could be something that'd be costly for Arkansas this football season if it doesn't get fixed.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to agree there. It's not lost on me that all it took was one second team FCS transfer defensive lineman to go down for a few weeks for them to have to do the whole, listen, we're going to have to address this. We might need to move somebody over. We got to get a veteran over there. Sam Pittman's making it sound like they're going to move an offensive lineman over there for numbers sake. And then, Travis Williams, it sounds like he feels a little bit differently about that. And it's like, no, we got young guys. We just got to get them ready to play. But regardless, one guy going down for a time period, if it puts you in those types of dire straits, it's, it's problematic. It's concerning. That's why I think in many ways he's right about what he was saying. He's talking about his biggest concern. It's like, yeah, let's just let's get everybody to to opening day here and get them healthy, because that's kind of the thing with Arkansas. There are ways that they could put this thing together. The defensive line, for example. Okay, yeah, if Cam Ball stays healthy and one of these other defensive tackles really steps up, and then you feel good about Quincy Rhodes and Justice Boone over there, great. But as soon as one of them goes down, it could be an issue there. You feel so great about Xavier Sori being back, but now he's getting some kind of procedure and he has to shut it down for 5 days. It doesn't sound like it's that big of a deal, but if you have to get something done that causes you to be shut down for several days so medication can take effect on a hamstring, which is something that can linger, in the back of my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, boy, are you really need to play him against Alabama A&M? Like, maybe he needs to get help. So just little things like that. I think he's 100% right. They have to stay healthy, because we can do this whole deal about, oh, they've got more depth on defense. Well, yeah, they've got more bodies, but they can't afford to lose too many dudes. And if you're losing one second team defensive lineman and you're having to try to reinvent the wheel to figure out how to get bodies in there, that's why we were talking about this as a potential concern for this team coming into the year.
Yeah, and again, like this is not our way of saying that they're screwed or that the defense is going to be bad throughout the entire season, or that it's like they can't make a bowl or anything crazy. It's just when you look at the defensive line on paper, there's not a ton of proven production there. We've all known that, and every time we say that, everyone gets upset. It's just like, that's just a fact of the matter of, like, if you just look at all these guys, there's not a ton of guys. And hell, Travis Williams said it in that video. He said, we have a couple guys that have played SEC football. Justice Boone, he's played SEC football. Cam Ball, Quincy Rhodes, although he has been suspiciously quiet throughout fall camp. I've not heard his name much. Those guys have played SEC football. And then Travis says, but the depth is something that we're having to figure out, and we need young guys to step up, which anybody, not just us, any coach in the SEC or any coach at football at any level will tell you, having freshmen play at the defensive line or offensive line position is not something anybody wants to do. Sometimes you have to do it, and we see it happen all the time. The fact that they are already there a week before the season where it's like, hey, we're going to need these young guys to step up, that tells you how they feel about the room and kind of the lay of the land. And also, if you just look at the depth chart, I mean, literally, they're going to post an official depth chart on next Monday, and you guys will see there will be multiple freshmen in the two deep up front there. And that's not a thing that's like you can just lie and pretend doesn't exist. And so it's absolutely something that they have to figure out. And that doesn't mean that they can't figure it out. Just because there are questions doesn't mean there aren't answers. Hey, it's Charlie Collins. This is your time to step up. Quincy Rhodes, this is your time to step up. Jafrard, Saili, all these guys. But it's just something that they need to figure out. And to this point in camp, it does not sound like they figured it out. And so we'll see. There's still some time there, and we'll see what it looks like once the season rolls around, or we'll really see what it looks like when you get to that week 3 game against Ole Miss, because that's really when you kind of need to have your ducks in a row. But right now, I don't know why it's very controversial to just be like, hey, this is very much an issue. And now the head coach and DC have also commented about it being a little bit of an issue.
Well, and also, too, like I was just looking at the whole roster of the defensive line, and because I think someone asked me this on Twitter. It's like, how does something like this happen when there's depth issues, like with the transfer portal and everything? Like, how does this happen? And at least from my understanding, kind of like what you guys said, they have bodies. But here's the deal: in coaching, especially at major universities and SEC football and all that, there's going to be some guys you bring in, whether it's a true freshman or a transfer, that just isn't going to be ready or be to the point that you were thinking when you brought him in come game time. Like, it's just going to happen. It happens every year. It happens with every team. And Arkansas is not unique to that. The issue is that you can't have multiple players be in that position. You can't have multiple players suddenly, especially at a unit like the defensive line, which is so important, not being ready. And that's what it feels like to Arkansas right now. It's not something to where they were just coaches being lazy and not getting players. I don't think it was that. I just think because of what we've heard about the situation with David Oki, I know he's dealing with an injury, but even before then, he wasn't in that position that they were hoping. Philip Lee, I think, is one of those guys that maybe is just not to the point. He's getting there. Maybe he's getting better, but just wasn't to the point that they may have been hoping. Maybe some of the guys that they had on the roster, that Jafar, all the guys we've talked about, just hasn't stepped up. And that is really where my concern comes into, where it's, again, it's the coach's issue ultimately, because they're the ones that have to do it. But it's just a problem because what it feels like right now where it stands is that quite a few of these guys just aren't where they need to be. And you can get away with that if it's just one or two, but it seems like it's like 3, 4, maybe even 5 guys that just aren't where they need to be. And that's very concerning. I mean, it all is very concerning. And it's not to say, as you guys said, it's going to be terrible. Some guys could step up. Some guys could get better as the time goes on. Some true freshman, maybe gets his opportunity in those games and steps up. Like, it absolutely could happen. It's just disappointing to kind of hear that, because I felt like the D-line, there was a chance at least that they would be able to pick up a little bit of the pieces and have some depth. But just constantly hearing about the struggles that some of these guys have as individuals is just not reassuring at all right now.
Well, keep the rest of them healthy between now and game time, and hopefully they get David Oki back here soon. My thoughts on it have shifted a little bit from, I was super, super concerned about the pass rush, and I still kind of am. And I just mean like off the edge with your defensive end. Like, I know they're going to do some other things, and you have linebackers and you have the bucks and the pennies and all the different shit that he was talking about today there. They're going to get creative in getting to the quarterback. It's not like, oh, we don't have a game record defensive end, so we're just not going to try to get back there. That's part of the chess match there for Travis Williams. But I am encouraged by the Justice Boone stocks. I am encouraged to hear Philip Lee's name be mentioned, as a guy that's coming along there. So maybe there are ways you can piece that together a little bit, and hopefully Quincy Rhodes, who it has just been quiet on him, and maybe that's just because he's doing his job. But I'm with you, Andrew, and I think I heard you say it on the show Saturday, is like, we would just love to hear somebody walk in there and say, man, Quincy Rhodes, like, nobody can block him. Because we've heard that about a lot of guys coming off the edge for Arkansas who wound up not actually being that great in games. So, but it is the interior for me that just seems a little bit problematic, because I'm all in on Cam Ball, man. I think he's awesome. I think he's going to have a great season. Was he third team all SEC coming into the year? Is that what it was?
Right.
He needs to be one of the 6 best defensive tackles in the SEC if this group's going to be able to get it done up the middle. Because you're relying on guys who need to take sizable steps forward. Not saying Ian Jafar can't, he just hasn't done it yet. Not saying Danny Saili can't, but he just hasn't been a factor at all for this team in his time here. And then now David Oki, the primary guy you went and got out of the transfer portal, is injured, and he's going to get back. Is he going to be behind? How long is it going to take to get him up to speed? Though that's kind of where my greatest concern lies. It shifted a little bit from the outside to the interior.
Did y'all see the article that came out over the weekend from an outlet in the state that says that the David Oki haters are going to have to eat crow? Did you see that?
I did see that.
I thought that was cool, but
like an hour later, it's announced that he was hurt. It's like, dang.
Anyways, I think both of you make great points. And to your point, John, in terms of like, how does this happen? Because that's the question people always have, is like, how do you not just have 8 defensive linemen that are nasty in the SEC? Well, one, it's like literally, we've said this before, defensive line is the hardest place to recruit actual NFL talent, whether that be out of high school or the transfer portal. Because out of high school, it's hard to look at a 17-year-old and say, you can play SEC football in 3 years. You know what I mean? It's really hard to find that and then develop them. And in the portal, everyone needs them. So it's really hard to go out there and get them. But to your point, though, like when you look at this roster again, and Curtis, you know this, like when you're if it's basketball and you have 9 guys that are going to play in your rotation, you bring in 2 guys that are expected to be in that rotation and they don't hit, all of a sudden you got an issue. It's like it changes the entire room drastically. And so at D-line, like you bring in 3 or 4 transfers, you kind of need those 3 or 4 transfers to be top guys for you. And right now, David Oakey's not available. Ken Talley. And then Philip Lee, who does seem like in the last 8 days or so, Philip Lee's starting to take those strides. And if you look at it on paper, he's the most productive, in his career out of all these guys. So you kind of need those guys to contribute in a big way. And if they're not going to, you have to find that elsewhere. And so that's where it kind of Deke Adams, who has had a track record of developing some young guys at Arkansas. Hell, Cam Ball was a guy 3 years ago that we were like, oh, he's a redshirt freshman. Is he going to do anything? He played a little bit for Arkansas. Quincy Rhodes last year, that was another example of a guy as a redshirt freshman who contributed. They're going to need Charlie Collins to be that guy. They're probably going to need Kavion Henderson to be that guy. They have some true freshmen who are working with the threes. Some of those guys might have to play. And so it's like, look, you don't need all these guys to be superstars, but when you have a thin group of 6 to 7 guys, any one of those guys not being a hit all of a sudden causes a little bit of an issue there. And so we'll see how that works out. But there's plenty of opportunities there for these young guys in this room to go out there and earn those spots. You're going to get your opportunities. You're going to get your playing time. Go ahead and shut us up. Shut everybody up about this D-line room and about how there's no promise for the room. And, teams are obviously not going to go into matchups being like, hey, watch out for these ends here. Make them, go out there and win those one-on-one matchups to where teams are sitting there. Hey, we might have to chip a running back on Quincy Rhodes, man. We might have to help a little bit. It's all there for them, but they have to go out and prove it. And just as of right now, through 2 scrimmages, through an offseason, through, all these guys' careers, there just isn't much right now that points to it being a huge strength for the team. But your head coach and your DC are basically coming out and challenging you. Go out there and prove us all wrong.
Yeah, and also to that point too, because I know we'll play a couple clips and then get into your chats, folks, but it just seems like at least over the past 5, 6, 7 years or whatever, the Razorback defense on the units, it's like they've had years where they just had a really suspect linebacker room, a really suspect secondary room. But it felt like defensive line, I know that year when they only had like 3 guys, it was a little suspect from that point, but at least held its own. It's just, it seems like they could just never get it all at the same time. There always has to be some sort of a issue there. But again, if they stay healthy, if some guys begin to step up, as we still sit here 12 days until season starts with some warm-up games, you would hope warm-up games leading into SEC play, it could really make a difference there. We'll have a couple of clips too about certain people, and then we'll get to your chat. But I want to remind everybody that we're brought to your friends over at Walter Christmas Lighting of Arkansas. Listen, great people over there at Walter Christmas Lighting as they are getting you ready for the holiday season. Halloween will be here before you know it. I know we're talking football season, but Halloween will be here, and a lot of you like to get all out, be the talk of the neighborhood with everybody coming around and seeing all the lights on your house. Well, it's a lot of work. Well, don't worry about it. Have the professionals of Walter Christmas Lighting do it for you. If you're in the Northwest Arkansas or River Valley area, they will help install and set up your house with professional Halloween and Christmas lighting. All the materials are provided. You get any color and any pattern. They install the lights. You get free maintenance throughout the entire holiday season. And they also do all the takedowns themselves over in January. And if you get Halloween lights, you will also get Christmas lights for 50% off. It's that simple. So text our guy Brett for a free estimate at 479-459-1380. That's 479-459-1380. You can also check out their website at walterchristmaslighting.com or on Facebook by scanning that QR code right there on your screen. It's Walter Christmas Lighting of Arkansas, your local holiday lighting experts. Okay, so another clip here too that we'll play, because you already mentioned him, Curtis, is about Trent Whan. A lot of people may not know, because correct me if I'm wrong, is he the guy that was at somewhere in the spring and then somewhere different in the spring and then transferred to Arkansas? Is that him?
Arkansas has a lot of guys like that, but yes, he was at Southern Utah last year. Then he was at Kent State.
That's right.
In the spring and then transferred over. It was just like Julian Neal was at Stanford in the spring and he was at Fresno State last year. So interesting. People get to spring ball and they're like, all right. Yeah, Andy Jean, you're right. Same way.
Yeah. Is okay. Maybe you guys said one of those. Wasn't there like a Florida State guy that was that, or Florida A&M? Is that?
That was Rodney Hill last year.
Rodney Hill last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was both Florida, because he was at Florida State, got kicked out because his agent was cutting deals. Then he goes to Florida A&M for like a week and then goes to Arkansas. So that's maybe the new move for Arkansas football. Just get guys who attend 3 schools in 1 year.
Yeah, that's usually a good success story there. But anyways, Trent Whan, though, has been getting a lot of talk. And here's the defense coordinator, Travis Williams, discussing him.
You know what? He's a guy that has a lot of experience, very smart, kid diagnosed, has a good change of direction in the core. We put him out at the penny hog. We call our hog the penny when we get in our 4-3 stuff. And he hasn't had a lot of reps there, but he's out there. He knows what he's doing. He asks a lot of good questions in the meetings, and just very pleased with him, and doesn't say a lot, knows his role. When he goes out there, he plays some football. So really like him.
And I think
So with that, he's a name that's kind of emerged and playing the hog penny hog, or nickel, dime, all the change, $50. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
but still,
we were talking about a lot of coins in there today. That's for sure.
yeah, it's good. Just got to start throwing some new ones in there if they're starting to run out of them. There's only so much currency in the United States that you can throw in there for football terms. But either way, like Curse, I know you kind of brought him up before the show started, but he's a guy that's been heard about, and it seems like he's got the size and everything. I don't know what type of impact he is, but at least at that linebacker spot and kind of moving around, seems like he's pretty versatile.
Yeah, I mean, 6'3", 238. So he's definitely got the size for an SEC linebacker there. That's for sure. I was looking over his stats. It's just a guy that he played 9 games last year, had about 50 tackles. He played 10 games a couple years ago, had about 50 tackles. Just, I think you need depth, and guys that you can turn to in the event of Xavier Sori having to, miss a week of practice because of whatever's going on there. Or if you're trying to take some reps off of him early, that way he's 100% for the games that count, the ones that really matter there. So I think it's important to have guys like that. And I know he was a late pickup there and somebody that's kind of figured things out pretty quickly, I would guess you could say, since coming to the Razorbacks. And yeah, Sam Pittman has mentioned his name in passing like a couple times, just when he's asked about the linebackers. He'll just, when he's doing the roll call, he'll be like, yeah, Waylon, which is great. But no, it sounds like he's coming on. And, like I said, I had somebody who was out at that scrimmage on Saturday. And one of the main positives that was relayed to me in terms of defense was, that FCS transfer linebacker was just flying around all over the place. Like, he really stood out, and that's Waylon. So good to hear.
Well, we were talking earlier about how with the D-line, it's like sometimes having questions isn't necessarily a bad thing. You just got to answer those questions. Y'all remember about 18 months ago when we were like, holy cow, what the hell is Arkansas going to do at linebacker? Because you had that mass exodus with Pooh Paul, Jordan Crook, Manny Powell, all these guys that transferred out. And we were kind of like, whoa, damn, like, I'm like, what's going on here? And then, of course, Brad Spence leaves last year. And so it's like there have been questions. To say that Arkansas has answered them at the linebacker position is an understatement. Like, it's actually kind of unreal. Now, when your DC is your linebacker coach, it's kind of the same thing with Sam Pittman, where it's like, hey, if you're going to be the linebacker coach, you better have good linebackers. I'm really impressed with the way they filled out the position group there. I mean, seriously, because linebacker, by the way, is not really a position. You need depth everywhere, but like, if you have 2 really good ones, they're going to play 95% of the snaps. So it's like you really only need about 4. Arkansas's got like 6. I mean, like Story and Dix, no doubt about it. Like, those guys are good. Bradley Shaw, like we thought he looked good as a freshman last year. The arrow is clearly pointing up on that kid. Like, he's clearly a guy that they really like. Tavion Wallace was like the best player in this high school class this past year. Like, we'll see what he looks like as a true freshman, but that seems like a really good developmental piece there. You've got Waylon. You've got Andrew Harris, the kid from UCF, who he seems to be catching some attention. I think he was a guy that stood out in the first scrimmage. Like, is that just 6 names that I just listed off? Like, those are 6 guys that could realistically play.
For Wyatt Simmons to do something.
Yeah,
We've been told.
Time for Wyatt Simmons, you're the best high school football player of all time, kid. He's LB7. Like, that is actually really impressive. And so, again, it's not like this, when we're critical of this coaching staff, or not even this coaching staff, but just the roster, it's not like this thing where they can't go out there and develop. They can't go out there and recruit. Like, they do it at other positions. We like the depth that, running back even, or wide receiver, or tight end, even O-line. Like, I feel okay about that. And like linebacker, they can go out there and get guys. And it's definitely the strength of the defense. Like, there's no doubt about it. And I am definitely very bullish on that group, and we'll just see how much they're able to overcompensate around them.
Yep, exactly. And I think with what the linebacker situation was, I think maybe Razorback fans, this is just me, I speak for myself, I won't say for Razorback fans, but the amount of years that this program went through of not having high quality linebacker play, it's still, even though they've been solid, as you mentioned, Andrew, like they've done a good job with Travis Williams and all that, it still just feels like it's still having to play catch up for how long Arkansas had just very average to below average linebacker play. They would have incredible defensive line play, and even in some cases have some pretty solid secondary players. But it's like even the Petrino era, and I love these players. I'm not hating on them or anything, but just when it felt like you may have been at your best, it was like Jerry Franklin, Jericho Nelson, some undersized guys, but you just looked across the way at Bama and saw their linebackers like, good grief, they're not even close to those guys. When Brett Bielema was here, you had Brooks Ellis and Marshall Spade, I know was pretty good there, but Braylon Mitchell. You just went through these times of just not having guys you could count on. It's something like every year was a new player, or you were just having to throw in a walk-on in there and everything. But I do believe that Travis Williams has done a good job of providing some consistency there, especially given how many players left. Because what was it? After his first year, was it 6? I'm pretty sure it was 6 linebackers that left to play at another school, not just move on, like another school. And that was always crazy. Gene Thomas is always going to be that player. I'm like, man,
Thomas.
that's a shame. Yeah, that was a shame. I thought he was really good and it just didn't work out. So yeah, it's as weird as it is. I have no concern about Razorback linebackers. I think they're going to be just fine. But not to say that there's not other things there too, but I think they're going to be all right. And also, final one before we get into the chat, because I know a lot of you are chiming in and everything. Wanted to bring this one up, but just as far as coaching and continuity, because that's one of the things that sometimes I forget about with this Razorback defense is the continuity that they have on staff, which I know that they've gone through a couple cornerback coaches, but Marcus Woodson, Travis Williams, Deke Adams, all been working together now for multiple years, and how important that is when it comes to the success of the defense. Travis Williams was asked about that.
Man, it's so good. And I mean, it's going to year 3. You got Coach Woodson and Coach Adams. This is our 3rd year together. We know each other inside out. And a lot of people don't understand our analysts and GAs are a big part of that as well. Now this is Coach Perry's first year with us, but man, he's a pro. He's been on the NFL level. He understands what we're about and what we're trying to get accomplished. And the first thing is about the players. And see, a lot of coaches get caught up and think it's about them. It's about the players. We're here for the players, and we got to put those guys in the best position to be successful. So no egos in our room. Whatever was best for the Razorbacks and was best for the players is what we're going to do.
So, continuity is always important. It gets thrown around a lot, but you could maybe even look at a bigger picture here too. I think Sam Pittman, for the most part, when coaches you wanted to keep on board or whatever, has done a pretty good job of continuity. For the most part, I think, what was it? Barry Odom and Kendall Briles were your coordinators for 3 straight seasons. And, just kind of, it's more of a rarity in college football to where you see that happen. Not to say there weren't some clunkers that they needed to move on from, but it's certainly good to see that there has been some continuity on that defense. And maybe that is and can really come into play this year for this defense, especially ones that seem to lack depth. Maybe being on the same page and being able to work well together can really help them out.
Well, did you know that Sam Pittman is the longest tenured coach in the 21-year history of the Little Rock Touchdown Club?
Really?
So bad today. Yeah.
So Nutt just stopped after 5 years a couple of those times?
Well, I guess it's because Nutt was, if they started 21 years ago, it's 04. So I guess he was already, I guess they're saying like the amount
that makes 21 sense. Years. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm tripping. I was thinking, I'm like, does that mean other coaches didn't show up, or whatever? Because Bielema, did he get fired in year 5, year 6?
After year 5. Yeah.
After year 5. Okay. So yeah, Sam Pittman, the model of stability, which
the longer a head coach is around, usually the longer he can keep a staff. I know that you can be turnover, but that's if you got to be trending in the wrong direction. Like either guys get plucked and they get better jobs, but you're kind of in the SEC here. So it's like you might have to fire guys if you stink. Well, then if you continue to stink, you get fired. Or it could be like Kendall Briles, who was trying to get a different job, every other week or whatever. He was like on the Hunter Yurachek track of trying to get the hell out of Arkansas. So it was crazy, man. But yeah, I think he's done a great job with being able to keep guys around. And I would want to be on Travis Williams' coaching staff, wouldn't you? I would love to be on. I would rather be on T-Will's coaching staff than Bobby's, personally.
Certainly so. I also would argue that I would want to be a coordinator under Sam Pittman because he's not going to undermine you. He's not going to try and do your job for you. I think that's one thing that helps in that regard, because a lot of times in college football coaching, these guys have massive egos, and a lot of them get to where they are because they have massive egos. Like Bobby Petrino, it's not like a secret. Guy has a big ego, he's not going to sit there and listen. If a head coach is telling Bobby, hey, Bobby, you really need to think about doing this on 2nd and 7, he's not going to respond well to that. And I think that's one thing we've known about Sam Pittman from the jump is he doesn't try and be this overarching, I'm going to have my hand in everything. He does delegate and he lets these guys do what they want to do. And so I think that's definitely very appealing to young coaches like T. Will who want to kind of do things their way and get those really quality reps. And then for Bobby, who doesn't want anybody to bother him, I think it works out well. And so I think that's why if you look at all the position coaches and coordinators, they really only leave if something weird happens. It's not like it's not like everybody's going to live and die with Sam Pittman, but there's not really many coaches that are like, I got to get out of here. I'm being held back. Like, I don't think they get that feeling from Sam Pittman, which, I think is a product of him being a pretty selfless head coach overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I just keep thinking about, the horror stories I hear of like coaches that have worked for Bobby and then can't help but hear and think of things like coaches that work for Muss and just knowing their similarities. There's just similarities. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, Travis Williams, man, it'd be fun to work for. We need another coach video. I don't know if we're gonna get one of those. I hope we do.
He didn't seem like he was in the mood for it today. I'm not saying he was in a bad mood, but he's a little more matter of fact. The first time you see a guy in fall camp and it's been a year or whatever, and he's excited and hyping everybody up, and then like they rolled him back out here for a second time in a week or whatever. And today he was just a little bit more, let's get through this, man. I got stuff to do. I
mean, doesn't help that he literally spoke to the media like 5 days ago.
Yeah.
It's like there's really not much to talk about. The only thing that's happened since then is they got cooked at the scrimmage. So I can't imagine he's thrilled to talk to the media right now.
Well, especially because I guess tomorrow is when we'll hear from Bobby Petrino. Mm-hmm. And it makes, because talking about comparisons, we'll see how Bobby's press conference tomorrow compares to his first one where he was cracking jokes, just being like, do I not look like I'm even killed? Do I not look like, just like, come on, Bobby, don't smile. I want you to be pissed. I want him to come in there blazing. I want him to go after Daniel Shee and be like, hey, you ask that stuff again, buddy, we're going to meet outside. Like I'm messing with Daniel, but still, like I want to see Petrino, see if he is on the same wavelength of being all happy-go-lucky as Bobby Petrino can be, or is he going to come in pissed off, one-word answers, and he storms out of the press conference?
Give me spicy P. You know what I'm saying?
Spicy P. I would love that. I am here for any sort of Bobby Petrino yelling at people. Because what was it last year that we saw in was it fall camp or spring when he was at Cat Savis? I think just ripped him a new one and just and I'm not outing him or anything, but there was just a discussion being held between Petrino and Cat Savis, who's a wide receiver for Arkansas, and it just ended with Petrino going from a regular volume to about 100 volume and said, "Shut the F up, do as I say, and get back in the huddle." It's like, okay. There it is. That's
run your routes precisely for that man.
Yep.
Even Ronnie Fouch was talking about that. He was asked about, it seems like a lot of attention to detail with you guys this year with your coaching and everything. He was like, yeah, because if our receivers aren't running the routes right, then Bobby's yelling at me. So they know what's up.
Oh, man. I still, I know we're talking a lot about it, but I still love the fact that there was, of course, reports that Willie Robinson, the defense coordinator for Arkansas, that when Petrino was here, they got in a little fisticuffs there in practice. But I remember thinking, I was like, oh, come on, that's a little ridiculous. But do you guys remember Bobby Petrino and that Kentucky coach when Bobby's at Louisville and he was at Kentucky, that they got into before the game, like a little like wrestling match? I don't know if y'all remember that. But yeah, I don't know. It's just for such a little fella, he has no fear of anybody. He probably should though.
To go back to the comparison you just made, rumor has it that something similar happened before the Arkansas Colgate NCAA tournament game, right before the team came out for warmups.
But between Petrino and somebody, or you saying somebody else? No, just
a little coaching skirmish,
Yeah. All right, I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to get myself in trouble. Who wins, Petrino or Muss? Just let's just go.
Muss for sure.
Okay.
Muss is in great shape.
Yeah, when Petrino's not, I mean, he's probably a little bit, does he maybe have a little bit of a size advantage on Muss?
Probably.
But not enough to make up the difference in being older and just like more tame, Muss is in the gym 5:30 every morning.
He's got some pretty solid cardio. Muss does. I think he'd be able to outlast him.
Yeah. But I think Petrino's got maybe a little bit of the old man strength. I don't know. Old man strength just always makes me nervous. Same thing with Dave Van Horn. It's like he doesn't look big, but man, if you got that old man strength, it can overcome a whole lot. So, but obviously we're hitting the heavy topics here on Inside Arkansas Live and getting to all the discussions. We'll get to your chat right now, get to all your questions, folks. But want to remind everybody that Hickey and Hull Law is one of our great sponsors here on Inside Arkansas and Inside Arkansas Live. And a lot of these court cases that you will have to deal with in your life, whether it's divorce and custody cases, which are extremely important, or criminal cases, civil litigation cases, no matter what it is, you need help. You don't want to do it on your own. It's never going to work out well for you. So have Hickey and Hull Law help you out, where they are going to build that strong relationship with you and make sure that they are there every step of the way for advice, for questions, always going to be a call away, an email away. They will be in contact with you nonstop. And they have offices across the state of Arkansas to help you out and be as convenient as possible as well, whether it's Fayetteville, Fort Smith, Little Rock, or Mena. Give them a call today, 479-434-2414. That's 479-434-2414. Or you can check out their website, hickeyandhull.com. That QR code you can scan on the screen right now. It's Hickey and Hull Law. Things are about to get better. All right, so let's get into your chats, which I know are lively and fun and entertaining, but want to give a shout out. I guess we have to, even though he says some crazy things. But Hogslop just became a member. So there you go, Hogslop. Appreciate you becoming a member. May have some disagreements in the chat, but we appreciate it.
One of us.
Hogslop. Anyways, let's see. Where was it at? Oh, yeah, the transplanted Texan says, D-line concerns and 2 of the 5 O-line is still uncertain. Could wins literally be on the line if they are not addressed?
I think they're certain. All of the offensive line, personally, at least 4 of the 5, I think are certain.
I'm with you. Like I not to say that O-line is like going to be the best unit of all time or anything, but I think there's a lot less up for grabs. And again, they've been running with the same first team unit for a while. Hell, one of the guys that was competing for the job at right guard might be a defensive tackle now. So,
seriously,
I think it's safe to say Kobe Brandon has won the right guard job. And Amarian Harris and Shaq McCoy are technically in a competition, but it's been Amarian Harris every single day with the ones. And I think like the stability you have on that left side, not to say that O-line's, again, not a concern, but it's not lumped in the same category as D-line where you really don't know much, outside of that top 3 or 4.
I think we're getting ready to address this similarly with a wide receiver comment.
We are.
But there's just not – it's not that I look at this offensive line and I go, wow, holy cow, man, this just jumps off. This is crazy. They're going to be amazing. But you just know what you got there now. You just have a better feel for who's going to play, who's going to be in there. There's a little bit more know what you're going to get value at that position as opposed to some others there. I will say, transplanted Texan, I love what you did there with the question. Could wins literally be on the line?
Yeah, I like that.
Good job.
I will also say at O-line, if you have 5 guys that are your starters, you're going to play with those guys almost every snap. D-line, you really need like 9, and they maybe have 3 right now. So it's like they're just the in terms of what they need versus what they got, it's like night and day different on O-line, D-line. So I would say I'm with you on the D-line concerns, though. That is very much we've covered that.
Is this I'm sure this is wide receiver comment you're talking about, right? Trailer Park Sark says Monty is projected to miss the Memphis game due to the birth of his grandson. Is that the one?
That's me, the birth of my actual son. But yeah, so
I like that a lot. Well, it's funny is like when I read it, I kind of like it had me at first. So I was like, oh man, like it's like the due date's around, and I'm like, oh wait a minute, he's not actually a grandpa, but he is close.
Yeah, and I wanted to read this name as a completely different thing. I was going to say Grayson Chicken, but that's not. It's Grayson Burnett. You know what? Is no one worried? Yeah, it's just put a space in between the names, my man. Is no one worried about the receivers anymore? Swear before camp people started. It's people were more worried about the receivers in the D line. Now there's not much said about them.
I think we've just heard more about it to give you a little bit of comfort in what they have. Like you consistently heard about Omega Blake and Raylan Sharp kind of being separated from the pack. Now you're hearing, CJ Brown has really come on strong. Oh boy, Monty Harrison here's another, here you get a 70-yard, reception. You get no, you don't. It's Monty Harrison for all of them. Right. And so it just seems like they've kind of established a pecking order there of 4 or 5 guys that consistently have been spoken about very highly throughout the course of camp. And they got some others, and, we'll see who can kind of step up and mix in, get in where you fit in. But not worried about the receivers anymore. I think there's a world where you can not be worried about them without overreacting and thinking that this is going to be like an elite wide receiver room is where I'm at.
Yeah, I don't think there should be any misconception to where it's like we now are like, oh yeah, their hogs are loaded at wide receiver. In fact, I think if you're looking at the offense, receiver is still probably the weak spot of the entire unit, but it's a unit that has had a lot of success in fall camp, albeit against the ones and twos on defense. And I also just feel like with the way I feel about receiver is I don't think this receiver room has a very high ceiling. Like I don't really see any path to them being like a top 5 unit in the SEC, but I also don't think they're going to be, I think they have a higher floor, with Omega Blake, Raylan Sharp, and some of these guys that are just going to kind of give you some semblance of stability. And then, you mix in a couple young guys in there. I think their floor is just much higher than the D line, which, I'm not, we'll see where they end up at, but like the D line could quite literally be the worst D line in the SEC. That's not an exaggeration. I'm not saying they will be. I'm saying like their floor is that. Whereas the receivers, their floor is probably a little bit higher than that, but their ceiling's not much higher. I think there's just like a little bit more stability. And honestly, like if you were to put a gun to my head and say, hey, who are the top 7 receivers? I could without a doubt, list those out. If you were like after that starting defensive line, if you're like, hey, who are the next 3 guys? It's a lot harder to answer that question. And that's probably why, Grayson, it seems like we have more confidence in the receivers and the D line. Though I will clarify, even in the spring when I was very worried about receiver, I wasn't as worried as I was about the D-line. I do want to clarify that. Like, it wasn't like they were equal, and now we've changed completely. But I think this is a very fair and valid question. I'm glad you asked it.
Yeah, and also, too, with the wide receivers, I've always felt like if you go through fall camp especially and you're having to navigate through about 10 different names and it's constantly 10 different ones that are getting mentioned or talked about, to me, it's never a good thing. It's like you want to know, yeah, you got to get other receivers involved, but you want to know, all right, so who are the guys? Like, just who are the Joe Adams, Jarius Wright, Greg Childs? Who are they? Just want to know who those guys are. If you have those guys, which it seems like they're at least gotten that point, which was a little bit concerning when Ishmael Cece went down. I guess it was at media days pretty much was when that was happening. That was one of those things where I'm like, oh gosh, already had these concerns, but then the depth comes in where they lost one of their receivers that they were going to count on. Obviously, I'm sure they'd rather have him than not have him, but it seems like they're at least going to be all right for where they're at.
And it's easier for a narrative to shift when you have 2 scrimmages that are just filled with explosive play after explosive play after explosive play for the offense and said wide receivers.
Well, that's a great point, Curtis, because again, it's not like we're just taking these takes out of thin air. It's not rocket science. If the coaches go out there, if in the spring they had gone out there and been like, man, we love our receivers, we would have probably felt pretty good about it. But they were in the spring and we're like, we don't love our wide receivers. So we were a little bit concerned. Now in fall camp, they seem to like them a little bit more. We're not as concerned. Same as linebacker last year. When they were concerned about it, we were concerned. When they stopped being concerned, we stopped being concerned. If they come a week from now and they say, hey, we actually feel way better about our D-line than we did 2 weeks ago, I'm not saying I won't be concerned, but it's like we will adjust. We've actually shown pretty consistently we will adjust if we need to. We have been given no reason to adjust yet regarding the D-line, and we've been given at least a little bit of reason to adjust on the receivers.
Also, a shout out because I butchered his name. He says, I'll work on my name, John. My coach used to call me Burnt Chicken. Well, now forever now, I'm calling you Burnt Chicken.
Burnt Chicken. I like that.
Burnt Chicken. Barbecue chicken, burnt chicken. Like, that's great. Yeah, that's pretty great, man. Also, okay, so speaking of that real quick, I know we'll get back to the chat. I just want to play this clip because the Petrino thing with Travis Williams, Petrino his thing has always been about letting the offense play its plays. Don't do plays against the quarterback. Like, don't touch them. Don't bat balls down. Don't, it's all about the offense. It kind of feels like that's kind of getting to the point to where it's at right now. Well, Travis Williams was asked, I think Tom Murphy asked him, he's like, hey, is this a normal thing? Is this kind of common? And well, here's Travis Williams' very short answer.
Different places do different. I've been a part of both. I've been part of both, and both styles work. So I've been part of both.
All right.
He has been part of both.
Yep.
Made that clear.
Yep.
So, yeah, that was interesting, man. It made me think because after the first scrimmage, it was, Sam Pittman said himself, like, hey, we turned T. Will loose, just let him do whatever he wants. Like we weren't holding back anything. And then they got torched. And then after the second scrimmage where, like the ones defense had that drive where they had 4 penalties and got scored on and stuff. But T. Will said they at least limited the explosive plays against the second team offense or whatever. But now he's saying, yeah, but we're, lengthening some plays and not stopping them playing through and everything like that. So it's like, is that a shift from one week to the other, or are we speaking out of both sides of our mouth here, or what's really going on? But yeah, that answer was interesting to say the least.
Definitely doesn't do a ton to dispel the narrative that him and Bobby were butting heads during the scrimmages, right? You know, by the way, like we talked about that in the moment, that we don't care. We are of the belief that competition is healthy. These things get intense. You have high level competitors. All that's fine and dandy. Hell, Bobby Petrino has a history of getting into it with some coaches. I feel like this almost confirms that, and that fires me up. Is it fair to say that? Like, I actually like that. There's some tension and there's some, hey, we're going to get after your ass. And I bet you all week T. Will is sitting there thinking, we're getting after those boys. And maybe they will, maybe they won't, but I think that is healthy.
Well, I guess my question would be, and I'm trying not to look too much into it because obviously, like, I agree. I love it. And I love how the competition could be and all of that. But is it maybe that I'm looking too much into it in the fact of this wasn't the way it was a year ago, like in fall camp? Like, did it just happen now? Or was it there and it just didn't get talked about? Because that would be my curiosity. If it happened last year and that was just part of it, then that's one thing. But if it was, all right, Bobby was here a year ago, it wasn't this way, and then suddenly it changed this year, which, of course, would ultimately be a Pittman decision. Was it something that Bobby convinced Pittman to do? And was it against maybe the wishes of Travis Williams? I'm not trying to start crap. I'm just wondering how the process of that played out to where this became the thing of the practice for Arkansas.
Well, if I put on my Big J journalism hat here, if Tom Murphy asked Travis Williams that question today, he's going to ask Bobby Petrino a similar question tomorrow. And then maybe we'll be able to connect the dots a little bit better on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, he might ask him about that. Hey, is that a thing that you know, you used to like to do that? Have you done that since you got here? You know, I would imagine that Tom's going to be all over that tomorrow.
Logistically speaking, also, everything we've heard from Bobby himself, Carmona, Talon, everybody is that they're way ahead of schedule this year compared to last year, which, you know, maybe coach speak, maybe whatever. I think the fact of it being year one last year maybe lends itself to Bobby being a little bit more vanilla of, hey, we need to hammer down these details. We need to make sure we're doing what we do right. Maybe this year they feel like they have some more things figured out and they're like, hey, maybe we would like to experiment a little bit more on the offensive side of the ball and maybe be prepared for whatever. So maybe that's the difference between last year and this year. But I think you're right, Curtis. I look forward to hearing what Bobby has to say about it tomorrow if he's asked.
Yeah, it's always been some way that I've always practiced, and it's you know, some defenses are different, but this is the way it works. And you know, if Travis doesn't like it, he can leave because I'm making more money than him. So it's probably what he's going to say, something to that extent.
Yeah. Can you get Bobby to say, "I've been a part of both"? Just give the T-Will answer in the Bobby voice.
You know, I've been a part of both. The one way obviously works a lot better than the other, but you know, I've been a part of both, and I don't really want to be a part of both again. So, yeah, Travis can just leave.
Yeah, if you're scared, go to church, T-Will. That's what Bobby said.
Exactly.
Calling him out.
And the only time he's been a part of the other side of it is when Jimbo was bossing him around before he came back here.
Yeah,
Jimbo wouldn't let him call plays, man. He still has nightmares about it.
Yeah. Like what was it? Wouldn't even let him use the terms. It's like, you got to use our terms. And Bobby's like, I don't even know what that is. So.
Well, to be fair, Jimbo's gone on to have so much success, you know, outside of Bobby. So, you know, clearly it worked out for him.
Clearly. Yeah. Which I know we'll talk about that because there's a lot of stuff going on today. So that's what Mondays are really about. But I did want to bring up this real quick since we're talking football. We'll get back to your chats in a bit. But Curtis, you sent this to us in our group, and I thought this was pretty fascinating, like you were saying. But from K Ford ratings of the projected SEC standings, which is a % chance to win at least this amount of conference games based on current K Ford rankings, Arkansas down there at 13th at 2.5. And it gives the percentages of, I guess, the likelihood of how many games that they would win in the SEC given the circumstances.
Yeah. I guess what struck me about this the most was, like, there's going to be a natural drop off from 1 to 2 and from 2 to 3, you know, based on the amount of wins and everything like that. But it just looks like there's a top 12 here. Then there's a cliff that everyone else falls off. And then there's Arkansas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, and Mississippi State. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of crazy. Like, okay, a 1% chance to win, you know, 6 SEC games. That would be awesome if they did it. But like, the difference in 5 SEC wins between Missouri and Arkansas is 27% to 5%. 4 of them just going 4 and 4. You know, it's like 55% to 19%. There's just a pretty stark drop off there. And that's weird. So what does that mean? Is it, I'm sure it's a combination, I guess, of the schedule, that Arkansas would have to navigate to get to those wins. I hope it's that more than it's like the perceived difference in rosters and a drop.
That's a great
there,
point.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a great point, because when I first looked at this chart, I kind of noticed the same thing, and I was like, I don't know. I don't have a problem with Arkansas's placement as much as I do. Is there really that big of a difference between Oklahoma and Missouri? Hell, or even Auburn, for that matter. But your point about the schedule makes a lot of sense, particularly with Missouri. I haven't looked at Oklahoma, although I think they probably have a decently tough schedule. But honestly, guys, I mean, I'm sure I'll be interested to hear your thoughts. This kind of goes right in line with where I'm at and kind of where I'm thinking, because I think Arkansas beats Mississippi State. That's their 96% one right there. I think between the Tennessee, A&M, Ole Miss, Missouri, and who else is in there? Tennessee, A&M, I guess it's just really – and Auburn. I think Arkansas probably wins at least like one of those games, and that's where your 78% lies in, that you probably get those two. And then that third one is where I'm having trouble getting there, and to see it's basically
like a coin flip.
Yeah, honestly, I think like Hog fans, that's kind of about where you're at right there, of like your over-under for total wins is 5.5. This chart kind of backs that up, right?
Yeah, and that's how, okay, because I was looking at, just real quick, you mentioned Oklahoma's schedule, SEC schedule, that is. But they have Auburn at home, then they have Texas at home, at South Carolina, Ole Miss at home, at Tennessee, at Alabama, Missouri at home, and then LSU at home. So I think that's over half of their SEC games against current top 25 teams. But still, it's like, to like you said, to go from 30.7 with Missouri to 2.5 for Arkansas, I think it's leaning heavily on the schedule. But it's also fascinating to me, at least, that Arkansas plays Mississippi State, as mentioned, like they're right there at the bottom. Missouri is just a little bit above them. That's the other game. And then Auburn's a little bit above them. And then you don't get another team that Arkansas faces until that 4.7 of Ole Miss. And then Ole Miss, A&M, Tennessee, LSU, Texas. It's just, if you look at the teams that Arkansas is going to be facing, that's why. But I don't know. Listen, if Arkansas gets 3 SEC wins, which I know they have less than 50% chance of happening, then Arkansas is going to have a pretty decent year. But you're talking about probably being 6-6 if they get to that point.
Unless you beat Notre Dame, of course, which,
Right.
Yeah.
Let me ask y'all this. I see Mississippi State down there, the obviously projected worst team in the SEC for obvious reasons. 77% chance to win one SEC game.
About to bring
Who do
this
y'all
up.
think that is? Because I'm looking their SEC schedule, for those wondering. Tennessee at home, that actually is maybe your best chance. At A&M, at Florida, Texas in Starkville, which is interesting because they played Texas in Starkville last year, I'm pretty sure. Arkansas in Fayetteville, Georgia in Starkville, Missouri in Como, Ole Miss in Starkville. What's the 77% chance there? Where am I missing? What's the win for Mississippi State? Is it Tennessee?
You don't want to hear my answer.
Is it Arkansas?
Or Missouri?
No.
I mean,
they're not coming into Fayette-Nam and winning.
Maybe between Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee. You mentioned one more in there that they just think odds are they'll get one of them. I don't know.
Yeah, Tennessee at home in week 4, I think, is probably the best chance for Mississippi State to win. Tennessee's interesting, man. They're getting disrespected bad preseason.
I was about to say, I think this whole quarterback thing might have people a little bit too fading Tennessee too hard. I don't know if they're going to make it back to the playoff or whatever, but that's still a pretty salty defense, man. And they've got, it's like the Aguilar kid has never played football. They're not starting a true freshman here. But yeah, it seems like a lot of people are all of a sudden looking at that Tennessee game, not just Arkansas fans, but just on their schedule and be like, oh, baby, this is one we didn't think we're going to get that we're going to get. And it's still a pretty good football team, especially if you have to play there.
Well, and also, when's the last time Josh Heupel had a quarterback that didn't have success?
Right.
Like, I'm sure there's an example, but it's been pre-UCF. It would have to be over a decade ago. Pretty much every year he's had, no matter what quarterback, he's had a lot of success.
And I'm pretty sure he has started a different quarterback in every season that he's been at Tennessee.
It certainly feels like, because this is his 3rd year, 4th year? I'm trying to remember how long he's been there.
I want to say 3rd.
Okay. Well, actually, no, I think it might be even further than that, because remember, Pruitt got fired after Pittman's first win against him in 2020. So he's been at Tennessee since 2021.
1, 2, 3, 4. So this is his 5th year.
Yeah, it's his 5th year. So, and here's the thing: is like I still believe Arkansas is going to beat Mississippi State. The only reason I brought up that, and I'm not saying K4 ratings knows this, but I'm just like, man, what is the one thing that kind of we will at least have a good idea about Mississippi State? Their offense is going to be good, and who's going to be potentially one of the worst defenses they'll face on that SEC schedule? Arkansas. Like Arkansas might be the worst defense they face potentially. So that's where I kind of come into play for that. Of why?
Would y'all like to know what the ESPN FPI has to say? Dang it, never mind. They don't have it on the ESPN app. Sorry, never mind. I don't have anything to tell you. No information.
Well, I will tell you that they updated and they kicked Arkansas out.
Where's Arkansas? Were they in the top 25?
They were 22. Arkansas was. In fact, me and you talked about it on one of the days that John was out from the show. I remember bringing it up because it was the heavy hitter, the FBI.
I saw that people were reacting to the updated top 25, but I didn't look at it. So do you know where we know where Arkansas is at?
I think they're like 29th.
Wow.
Okay. What is that, like 14th, 15th in the SEC, I'd imagine?
Yeah, I think ahead of Mississippi State and Kentucky for sure. I don't remember about Vandy or not. By the way, shout out Connor O'Gara. Tennessee's week 1 starting quarterbacks by season in the 2020s. Jared Garantano. How did you say that dude's name?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Garantano, he stunk, bro.
2021, Joe Milton. 2022, Hendon Hooker. 2023, Joe Milton. 2024, Nico Iamaleava. And 2025, Joey Aguilar.
Wow. Hey, by the way, you guys want lock of the century, bet of the century, like retirement bet. Vanderbilt over 4.5 wins, period. Not SEC, just period. Vanderbilt to go at least 5-7. That is a Curtis. That is a Nolan Jr. fund, like college fund. Go ahead.
Lock it in.
Yeah, you can get him to Harvard, brother.
Oh, good to know. Yeah, I'm hoping that because there's a lot of I like the FBI's and I like the analytics and everything too, but man, just it is funny though to see like a 77% chance of Mississippi State winning one game. Like, well, there's been quite a few teams that have gone over in the SEC. Unfortunately, Arkansas has been 3 of those over the past 10 years. And I guess, well, close to 10 years. But the point is that it is possible. It has happened, but it's only happened 5 times. And Arkansas has been 3 of the 5. So maybe it's just if they were Arkansas, they'd have a chance at it. But that's anyways, pretty fascinating stuff there. I love the numbers, the nerd stuff by K4. I don't even know who K4 is, but whoever he is, good analytics, my man. Good analytics.
Hey, I have breaking news from Pete Thamel since we're talking quarterbacks.
What's up?
Y'all know Devin Brown, that guy from Ohio State?
Mm-hmm.
He transferred to Cal and just lost the job to a true freshman, Jaron Q. Sagabaluzzi. So Desmond James is going to have a true freshman throwing the ball to him to his 265-pound frame. Pete Thamel, for some reason, I don't know if I signed up for this. Every time Pete Thamel posts a story, I get an ESPN notification alert. And Pete Thamel apparently only reports on notable things, but it's like I get these ESPN alerts. And I'm like, so good to hear that Temple announced their starting quarterback. Nice.
Yeah. Listen, if that ever happens, I feel like you just got to quit football, man. If it's like if something like that happens, it's tough.
He's a quarterback that wears number 33. So that's probably why he didn't get the nod.
That's your problem right there, idiot. Yeah, nice.
It's unacceptable, really.
It is. I hated it. What was it? Shea Patterson, was that his name? The guy that went to Michigan and wore 20? He was at Ole Miss at first.
Yeah.
I hated that. And I'm like, I don't hope for injuries, but if you had one, I wouldn't be sad because of you choosing number 20 as a quarterback. Stop.
Dude, there's somebody, I want to say it might be BYU. There's somebody in college football this year whose starting quarterback is wearing number 47.
Stop.
Little middle linebacker number.
I hate that so much. We'll get the best and worst of the weekend, but I want to give a shout out to Kelku just for the super chat. Appreciate it. He goes, y'all my media. I loved y'all. Like past tense? Come on. Like what would we do?
Still love.
I know. It's always funny that typing's hard. Reading's hard for me too. It's all hard. So anyways. But we'll get to more of your chats. But let's go ahead and do a best and worst of the weekend because there's a lot of stuff that we're going to try to cover in this, dealing with it all. But again, highlights, lowlights, anything. If you got some best worst of the weekend, folks in the chat, hit us up and let us know. I'll go ahead and start. The party animals that were at Baum, it was crazy around here. I don't know if you saw like traffic and everything, but it was just a nightmare. So many people showed up. I guess it was a 2-night event and everything, but I guess I don't know if they're the Savannah Banana. How do you guys know the connection? Is it Savannah Bananas and they're like there's
a banana league now.
Okay.
I think there's like 6 or 8 teams, and so they go around. Like the Savannah Bananas were in Chicago this past weekend, and so
gotcha.
They're all kind of in the league.
I didn't know if it was like the farm team for the Savannah Bananas, but either way, they were in town. A lot of people showed up and all the fun and stuff. I just thought this was kind of cool because I had no idea it was going to happen. But Peyton Hillis, former Razorback, got an at bat in this game, and here's just a clip of how that went for him.
Look at that stance, man. Hillis! Well struck on the first pitch. Trick play, and he's still got those wheels.
Again, he didn't get a hit, and that's fine because he still would have done better than me or most of us. But like this guy right here, I'm gonna pause this. Hold on a second. Let me get back to this. This guy right here, he literally stopped going to school back in 2007. All right. So he was 20 years old in 2005. Now he's 40, just to kind of put it all together. He still looks like he could play football. He still looks like he could do it. And I know he's had a great story about when he saved his kids and how he almost died. And that's a scary thing and all of that. So I got a lot of respect for Peyton Hillis, but it's just like that dude is just built different. And I've heard so many like legends about him. But it was cool for him to do this and him to get contact and him still running it out and all that stuff. I thought it was a good thing for the Savannah Bananas or party animals, whoever, to be like, hey, we're going into Arkansas. Let's get a little Arkansas something on there. And shout out to that. I just thought it was kind of a cool thing of seeing Peyton Hillis go up to bat. And I guess the question would be, guys, since you're a basketball and baseball guys, well, baseball, since it is baseball, maybe not so much, but who would be a fun, like former basketball player you'd like to see get an at bat? Like former Razorback basketball player.
Connor Vanover.
That would be
BJ
cool.
Young.
Man, you'd be going yard if that was the case. It was BJ Young.
I will say, if the Banana Ball boys, they want, because obviously this is a very controversial thing, and listen, we can do that rant if we need, but it is very controversial, and I don't really know if it should be. But if they want to get people on board, I saw that when they went to LSU a couple weeks ago, they like had former players like Ryan Terrio was out there getting ABs. I think they need to do that with like Jalen Battles. Imagine obviously Jalen Battles is playing baseball, Robert Moore's playing baseball, but it's like when these guys are retired, how cool would that be if it's like, dude, you know what? For one night, Robert Moore and Jalen Battles, they're like 36 and 35. They're just going to play middle infield. I think they needed to start doing stuff like that. And Peyton Holt would be like the ultimate Savannah Banana. You know what I mean? I think they need to do stuff like that.
Be like the Rim Rockers in Little Rock that way back when they just got a bunch of old Razorback players. They're like, yeah, these guys, this will be fun. And it was a great idea, though, because that's the way you get people.
Great call from Michelle, although she did misspell Jalen Williams' name. We're going to let it slide. But Jalen Williams would like thrive in this setting of like goofing around, doing dances and stuff. Like the kids, by the way, it's for kids. Can we confirm this? This is a target audience of like 7.5-year-olds. I think Jalen Williams would thrive in that type of atmosphere.
Jay Will was on campus this weekend too.
Oh, dude, that's a big miss for them not getting
opportunity
him
missed. Yeah, opportunity missed.
It's wonder.
Yeah, it is cool how they get former guys. Did you see? I think it was Mark Burley when they were in Chicago. Did you guys see that? He went out. He's like 46 years old, and he threw, and then he was like, "I'm not going to be able to wipe my ass with my left arm for a week, but it was a great time."
Mark Burley was a legend, man. Perfect game, man. Had one of the best defensive plays ever. Mark Burley, man. That's a big boy.
Oh, yeah. So that's my best of the weekend.
I like that. No, that's a good one. It bothered me how many people were like up in arms about this. Like, oh, you're disgracing the sacred grounds of Baum Walker Stadium. It's like, no, this is awesome, man. They got a bunch of people in there. Kids were able to enjoy it. You got Peyton. I mean, I thought it was great. And I'm glad that they did it 2 days.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like, again, we're not the target audience. Like, do I think it's cool? No. Like, do I think that it's kind of cringy? 100%. Like, some of the stuff they do, like, yeah, it's weird. But, again, it's not for me. And I know this is going to really piss some people off. It honestly is, like, no different than, like, if they had done, like honestly, people that hate WWE, it's like, oh, man, why do they do WWE? It's like, because tens of thousands of people show up for it. And it's like, you get in an arena, do that. Any type of, like, honestly literally like RuPaul's Drag Race. You know what I mean? It'd be like
Right.
no different than it's like, yeah, it's obviously, that's not your cup of tea. Cool. But it's like, it's for a different target audience. And yeah, it is very weird how many people were like actually they were like, it's ruining Baum Walker by doing this. I'm like, what? So then every single, like, they've gone to every big league park. They've gone to every like big SEC venue, Duty Noble, Alex Box. Like, if it's ruining Baum Walker, is it ruining Wrigley Field when the Savannah Bananas play there?
Exactly. I don't remember people picketing outside for Harlem Globetrotters coming to Bud Walton. It's the same thing.
Exactly. And it definitely, like, anybody who, and I was actually, so again, I was with our buddy Hazelwood. Actually, we were talking about this the other day because we were kind of laughing at how many people were upset. I think a lot of people really truly in their hearts feel like it's going to ruin the game of baseball. And I'm like, listen, when these, like, the kids that go to these things are 9 years old. My nephews who are 9 years old, they go to this game. They grow up, they think the Savannah Bananas are cool. By the time they turn 16, they will not be doing this. Like, they will be watching MLB players and thinking they're cool. And, it's all that. And I think actually there's probably going to be a higher percentage of them who grow up and actually want to play baseball at a high level because they were interested when they were a kid, where there's a lot of kids that, don't get as interested in sports, for different reasons. I think it's like, again, it's just not for us. Like, it would be weird for us to be like complaining about it because it's not for us.
Yeah. Well, it's also the same thing when they did Top Golf or whatever at Razorback Stadium, or the Garth Brooks concert. Like, right. I don't care. As long as it's not impacting the season. Now, if they had the Savannah Bananas or whoever in the middle of the baseball season and it like had forced Arkansas, they had to go play somewhere else. Okay. But nothing's going on. If they didn't advertise it, you wouldn't even have known about it and you wouldn't have cared. So yeah, it's just one of those dumb things.
Yeah, no, for sure. Best of the weekend for me, I've got two. One, it's not the weekend, but it is today. Happy birthday to the man, the myth, the legend, Slim Jim, the wiener dog. He's 14.
Hey.
Hell yeah.
And he's taking a nap right beside me. 14 years
getting
old.
His driver's permit now.
That's exactly right. It's exactly right. Listen, Ed Orgeron, comeback season. This is a best of life for me. I love this. I love that he said he's got the itch again to get back into it. I hope that it becomes an Arkansas conversation. I know that it will, just because any former coach who says, oh, I'd like to get back into it, becomes an Arkansas conversation, because it's funny and it's cool and it's neat and it's different. College football needs Ed Orgeron and John Gruden. I say, why not both?
Yep. I agree.
John Gruden, head coach, Ed Orgeron, D-line coach. Who says no?
Let's go, man. Let's go. And get Ed O back in here, man.
Ed O should be the permanent SEC interim coach. Like, just permanent. When an SEC team fires their coach midseason, Ed Orgeron becomes your interim coach.
And it's like, teacher, bro. Yeah.
Doesn't matter what scheme you're running. He doesn't care. He's going to get those dudes fired up. And, because again, you don't want him for 10 years, but for one game, one speech, he can get you fired up. I like that a lot. I like that.
Well, and also too, the Ed Orgeron thing. Like I talked about, hey, if you get Gruden and him and all, Jimbo Fisher apparently wanted to come back. I was like, man, SEC Media Days could be great next year with all those guys. But also too, I think you guys think it's a little bit interesting. Maybe it's a coincidence, maybe not. But seeing like Ed Orgeron and Jimbo, especially two coaches that got fired and have so much money, it's stupid that suddenly they're a little bit more interested in coming back. And Gruden, I'm sure, has a ton of money too. So don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I found that element fascinating where these are with Ed Orgeron and Jimbo. They may be the coaches that are most known for getting fired and getting paid a ton of money to do it. So I don't know. Maybe.
Yes, I can imagine it, because yes, it used to be my job to do it on the SEC teleconference. Yeah, it sucks. Jimbo Fisher's another guy, extremely hard to transcribe. Jimbo Fisher talks like he's at an auction. It's unbelievable, dude. But no, I do think that's interesting, John. And I wonder if does that mean that they've just been spending like crazy the last 2 years? But honestly, man, like I say this, whether it's musicians, artists or coaches or players or whatever, if you can get paid a lot of money to do something, you probably need to do it for as long as you possibly can. And I bet, again, they probably spent a couple of years. Maybe they've had their fun. Maybe they're bored. But it's like they're probably looking at it and it's like, dude, I can 100% milk 10 more million out of this. You know what I mean? Like, I've had so much fun these last 2 years. One more failed coaching job and I'm set for life. I bet they probably think about it and they're like, if I just go and coach 2 more seasons and get fired, it'll be the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yep. And even if you go and get a job at like a smaller, quote, smaller college or whatever, like Ed Orgeron going to Boca Raton or something, it's like expectations aren't exactly the highest, but you'll still get paid a good amount of money and be able to hang down there at the beach and hang out all them great pretty girls down there. So yeah, I hope it's just funny that all at once, all these coaches are like, I could come back. I could do it. I can find a way. I can make it work. So yeah, that's a good one. What about you, Andrew? What's your best?
So I've got a couple. Really, my one Razorback related one. Vahiva Aloy made his professional debut. Had a pretty good weekend playing for the Delmarva Shorebirds out there up in the Baltimore Orioles system. Good to see that. He's been making some plays. Started a game at third base, which I thought was interesting. I don't know what the Orioles organization has going on, but I know they got a pretty damn good shortstop up there right now. So maybe in the future that's something he could do. But just good to see Vahiva Aloy getting back to playing baseball. I mean, who doesn't have fun watching Vahiva Aloy play baseball? And so shout out to the good folks in Delmarva who have a stud for the next few weeks. Brent Iredale also made his debut. Shout out to him. But my best of the weekend, and goes kind of hand in hand with my worst of the weekend. The UFC had an event in Chicago this weekend, and it was a very successful event. My worst of the weekend is kind of the main event and how it played out, and some of that. And Curtis, I know you share that same sentiment. But there were some awesome fights on the main card. Hillary was in Chicago over the weekend, and she was not there for the fights, but she went on Friday to the ceremonial weigh-ins, which, where they get shirtless, face off, and, it's a high intensity thing. And she said it was an absolute madhouse in there. And it was just a lot of testosterone, guys getting after it. But I thought that was really cool. And so I'm glad she was able to do that. She came home with a shirt. But there were a couple of really awesome knockouts. I'm not going to play the video because I don't want us to get shot down and demonetized. John, I'm going to hit you with a statistic.
Okay.
There have been 10 spinning elbow knockouts in UFC history. Spinning, you hit the guy with the elbow. If you see it, you'd be like, oh yeah, I know that. There have been 10 in UFC history. 2 of them happened in back-to-back fights on the main card, both of which were in the first round. And one of them was basically a number 1 contenders fight for Lerone Murphy. He gets a massive KO win that kind of ups his status a little bit. Curtis and I saw Carlos Prates catch an L in Kansas City a few months ago, but he got back on track with a really impressive first round knockout win over Jeff Neal. It was good stuff. It was a good fun event.
Good. Yeah, because I was going to say that that stat seems accurate in my understanding of the game, and yeah, I think I've seen a few of those, half of those maybe in my lifetime.
There you go.
But, yeah, for my worst of the weekend, and again, we could spend a lot of time talking about this, but just the reactions and everything from this deal from Outkick with talking about Arkansas and the guys from Outkick and talking college football. Actually, their names, I got to make sure I get their names right because I think I'm having one of them for an interview here very soon just to get their thoughts and opinions on it. But it was with Chad Withrow as well as Jonathan Hutton of Outkick. They were with Josh Pate. Anyways, they're talking about Arkansas, and they put out this clip and got a lot of reaction from Arkansas fans, and we'll just take a listen here.
So, Woo Pig Suey is only cool if you're winning. If I'm in a stadium and I'm getting my ass kicked, I'm not joining in, even if I'm an Arkansas fan on that after a field goal or after a touchdown late in the fourth quarter.
I have to stop him for just 1 second. This is a take that is disagreed with by 0 people on this planet. Yeah. There's not an Arkansas fan in the world who will be like, no, it's cool to call the Hogs down 41-3. He is arguing against nobody here.
That's why there's certain times when we do it.
Yeah.
Right. We do it when there's a pitching change, when there's a kickoff, when we just score a touchdown. He's arguing with nobody. Yeah. I'll let him continue.
I can't feel like that's worthy of my emotion.
That's well said. And Josh, I hate to be the guy that squashes dreams for people, and I don't want to limit someone's potential or what they feel like they could be. But like you have a high school guidance counselor, and they tell you, maybe you're not going to be a nuclear physicist, or maybe med school isn't for you.
But Meemaw said,
yeah, but my mom said I could do whatever I want.
You'll be president.
Maybe you're not going to be president one day. The world needs ditch diggers too, right? Like that whole thing from your high school guidance counselor. That's the talk I want to have with Arkansas fans. Is like, you're fine going 8-4. It is totally acceptable to be happy with 8-4 and the occasional 9-3.
Sure
You're
is.
a championship program. You're never going to be a championship program in this conference. Lower your goals. I want to be the high school guidance counselor for Razorback fans everywhere and tell them, lower your expectations.
Learn a trade.
Yes.
Okay. Again, I don't know who they're arguing with. Because my thing is, I think Razorback fans, if you told them they're going to go 8-4, 9-3 this year, they're all signing up for it in quick, fast, and in a hurry. That's like my feeling on it. But also too, when it's like you're not a championship program and everything. One, most Razorback fans worth their salt know that in football it's going to be difficult. And two, how many programs are in college football to that level? Like 10, 12?
He's making it sound like Razorback fans have these inflated expectations of where they're at. You're talking about lowering your goals, brother, man. You just raised them for us.
Yeah.
What are you talking about here, dude?
What's crazy?
9-3, and then you can't do the thing where you say you're not a championship football program, never be a championship football program right after saying the occasional 9-3. The reason why people are so up in arms about this whole 6-6 BS and wanting more, kind of striving to get to this point that you're saying we're not happy with. We would love that, dude. If you're 9-3 in this new era, you are in the conversation for the college football playoff, hence the championship. That's the entire point here, is being able to get there on a occasional basis and just be better than very run-of-the-mill average the entire time. This guy's pissing me off.
There's nothing more that pisses me off than someone who doesn't know you and doesn't know what you have going on, trying to tell you how you should feel and how you should think. Most notably, when they don't realize you agree with them. Like this is the straw man of all straw mans. Even the most optimistic Razorback fans that we've spoken to that are that are in the chat every day and get mad at us, even they are like, I think this team could win 8 or 9 games, like I really think they could. I have not heard any reasonable, I haven't heard anybody, not even a reasonable or unreasonable. I've not heard one single Razorback fan who's like, my expectation is to win a championship this year. I've not heard one person say that. I'm not saying they don't exist. They have not come to me. So to paint this narrative that like this fan base is over here begging for championships and we're not going to be satisfied with anything more. No, like we would all sign up for 8-4, 9-3. We would all kill our grandmother for 8-4, 9-3. Like it would be no problem at all. So don't come in here and be like, oh man, you guys guys need to be happy with 8-4, 9-3. Well, if we were 8-4, 9-3, we'd be happy. I'll just tell you that right now. It's just very weird. And like, I don't know who he's speaking to where he's like, oh, Hog fans, they just are so overconfident on their team. You are not telling us, there's nothing people that we've never heard of that could tell us about our football team that we don't know, or about our football program. We are very well aware they are not a championship program, and we're annoyed not because they're not winning championships. We just want to be proud of them, and sometimes they make us proud and we get excited, but it's like, and by the way, Pate did a great job defending Arkansas fans here where he's like, yeah, you guys have this completely wrong. Like they make a spectacle anytime they get a chance. Like last year when Arkansas beats Tennessee, that made Arkansas a 6-6 team, and we celebrated like we won the damn title, which is proof that this talking point and this argument is completely made up. Like the idea that Hog fans can't be happy unless they win a championship. We literally storm the field when we go 6-6. What are you talking about? Like you're just completely like, this is a guy that just does not have any context of what the reality of the situation is. And he's trying to talk about a program that he has just has no pulse on the fan base whatsoever. And I don't know, it's just very weird to me.
And then you have an actual ball knower below those two on the screen. Look at his face.
Oh yeah.
He's uncomfortable.
He knows they're full of shit too.
Yeah. He's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, and that's what kind of made me laugh about it all too, is like, I was like, maybe they got Arkansas mixed up with Nebraska, maybe. Because
possibly,
because hey, they're both red teams, so maybe there was that element. But I don't know. Again, people have their own opinions and everything, and that's fine. It's just for Razorback fans in general. If you would have said, honestly, all of this probably would have been true, or at least I could have gone down with if instead of saying 8-4, 9-3, they said, 6-6. You should just be fine with that. I would have gotten a little bit miffed by that. But when you're saying like, hey, you just 8-3, 9-4, or 8-4, 9-3, it's just be fine with it. I'm like, yeah, I would be very happy with that. And I think most Razorback fans would be happy with that. So yeah, it's just, it was just really funny. And people got pretty reactionary on it. I won't play off Pate's comments, but like you said, Andrew, he did a good job defending Arkansas and caused a stir from other people too on social media today, apparently.
Josh Pate did a good job of defending Arkansas, and then he turned around on his show later that night and picked the under on 5.5 wins. So,
well, that's what's funny about it is like,
but he wasn't disrespectful about it,
100%. And like Pate can understand that, like, what you're arguing something that is not real. And there's a lot of people in the state of Arkansas who understand it's not going to be a championship team and who are very in line with what they should reasonably be able to expect with the state of the program, who like are just hoping that they can make a bowl game. Like, I think Pate is actually, in a weird way, a perfect representation of kind of where we're at, where we all want to be great. We also understand that that's not really the situation right now, and we're just hoping to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah, just again, that was my worst of the weekend, is seeing that and seeing the reactions, and again, people getting in fights on social media about college football podcasts and guest work. I don't know, whatever. It's like we got bigger fish to fry than to deal with this nonsense of people just getting after each other. Paid appearances, I'm better than that. It's like, okay, sweet, that's whatever. I do not care.
Also, the idea that, like, I mean, listen, I'm not saying Pate for sure has never done paid appearances, but like, this did not strike me as like a big paid appearance. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to do a paid appearance, it's probably going to be with people that anyone's ever heard of.
And let me ask you guys this. If you guys had anybody ask you, say, hey, I'll pay you $50 to come on my show for an interview, are you saying no?
Hell no, I'm not.
No.
Right.
No person is saying no. That is the dumbest thing ever, where they're like, you know what? This guy offered me $100 just to go and talk about the thing I would love to talk about for free, but I said no. Shut up. Every one of us would take that money. So ridiculous. But anyways, that was
shout out to John Trimble in the chat, by the way. It's
yeah, he's getting them cheeks clapped if Arkansas goes in the floor, man. That's
crazy word, bro.
Yeah, I don't know when you go down there. Anyway,
I've got that threw me off. This was not prepared to see that. Anyway, I've got two.
Yeah.
One of them, did you guys see over the weekend? And this is why I have a hard, steady, fast rule that I follow, and it's always pick Arkansas to beat Missouri in basketball. Never pick Arkansas to beat Missouri in football. That's kind of the way to win money. They're testing me here because I want to fade them bad, and they haven't been able to figure out their quarterback situation. And they went and got the Bo Pribula kid from Penn State. And then they've got the Sam Horn kid back, who wasn't very good last year. They're in a competition. They're trying to figure out. Did you see that they named both of the quarterbacks in the competition captains over the weekend?
I did not see that.
I didn't see that.
It was like voted on or whatever. But yeah, Bo Pribula and Sam Horn, both captains, both competing for the quarterback job. You're just asking for a divided locker room. I just it's that's crazy to me. Maybe I should put it as best of the weekend, because it's kind of telling me between the lines that, there'll be paper tigers behind that schedule or whatever. So we'll see. But I just I found that interesting, to say the least. And the other one I want to show this. I don't know if you guys saw it. Andrew, I'm guessing you probably did. You guys see the Victor Robles situation? Baseball?
I don't know if I did.
Yeah, I guess not.
I want you guys to watch this. An interesting way to react after getting plunked.
Lined out to Halter at third back in inning number 1. And the first pitch from Estes. Swung on and fouled off on a pitch that hit him. He picks up the bat and throws it at Estes. He's been tossed. He is yelling at Joey Estes, and now he runs towards the mound. Now just kind of watching him. And now he continues to put.
That's Zambrano-esque is what that is. You remember Carlos Zambrano?
Yep. That was a crash out, buddy.
You've had a front row seat to a few Carlos Zambrano crash outs, if I had to guess.
Yes.
I love that. So Victor Robles, he played in the big leagues for a while, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love a former big leaguer being in a AAA game and like still being so dialed in that he's like getting that angry. I actually love that.
Yeah. I also don't think, this is just me. If you're going to do something like that, don't throw the bats. Like, don't throw your helmet at them. Don't use weapons. If you're going to do it, just charge the mound like a man and fight him with the fist. Just do
it. Reminded me of Bryce Harper freaking out that time and throwing the helmet, but it was just like the worst throw ever made. He came nowhere near the guy, and it's really awkward. But
he hit the bat when he did that thing, Curtis, he hit the bat on the ground, and he admitted later that like that stung so bad. Because like he hit him in the A-board and jammed him. And he was like, his hands were just throbbing the whole time.
Was that the one? It's one of my favorite moments with Bryce, where he got ejected towards the end of the game, and then like the next batter hits a walk off for them, and he runs back from the dugout and celebrates with the team, but then he just makes sure to look over at the ump and just go F you, and then just comes and starts celebrating again. It's like that was
probably
yeah.
Didn't he also get choked out on the stairs of the dugout by his closer? One time, was that Bryce Harper or was it somebody else?
I can't remember, but I do remember someone getting chucked out by a closer.
I want to say it was Papelbon, but it might have been somebody after him.
Papelbon was nuts.
Yeah, that was crazy. So
I love baseball crash outs, man. It's one of my favorite things.
There's a lot. There's actually a lot of them. It's kind of crazy. Well, I've got to go back to the octagon just for a second for my worst of the weekend. Curtis, I actually want to hear your thoughts on this a little bit, because we have a very prominent thing in MMA or in UFC where people they hate the wrestling. You know, they want to see people stand and bang. They want to see people strike, and it's annoying when people take it to the ground and just kind of lay there. John, I'm sure you've heard that before, right? Like, people, hey, you want to see them? If I'm going to watch a fight, I want to see y'all fight each other, not lay on each other, right? Well, I always typically think it's kind of overblown, where I'm like, okay, grappling's a part of the sport. Like, we got to do it. Hell, even when my guy Sugar Sean's getting mauled, it's like, you know, he's got to find a way out of it. I want to read some numbers here that are crazy. So one, Khamzat landed 565 strikes total and never came close to finishing the fight. Only 37 of those strikes were deemed significant strikes. So in a 25-minute fight, the guy who won every minute landed 37 significant strikes. That's rough right there.
Yep.
In a 25-minute fight, he had 21 minutes and 40 seconds of control time, landed 12 takedowns, and was laying on top of him for 21 minutes and 40 seconds of a 25-minute fight, and was at no point ever close to finishing said fight. He even had him in a crucifix, which, you know, that's a term, but like, if you have someone in a crucifix, the fight should be over in 30 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, he had him in it 3 times and never even came close to finishing it. And I saw a comment from, I believe it was Hog Slop, who said, he was like, you know, the UFC needs exciting fighters, and like Khamzat, you know, is not exciting, which
he has been.
Saturday is 100% true. That's what's so disappointing about it is, you know, we remember Khabib, and even Khabib, he was a wrestler, but he would finish dudes. He would absolutely maul guys and had this vicious ground and pound. I mean, he made Conor quit outright, made him quit in the octagon. Like, everybody remembers that. It just sucks to have a title fight at this level that can look like that. Because usually in MMA, if one guy is way better than the other, the fight gets finished. If you have 2 guys and one of them's really good at boxing, one of them's not, he's going to get punched in the head repeatedly until he falls asleep. Like, it's usually exciting. It sucks to have a gap in skill and it not, you know, that's what I love about the sport, is that like, usually when there is that huge discrepancy, it gets finished in a brilliant way. And Khamzat, who got to this spot because he was finishing everybody, he just broke Robert Whittaker's jaw in 90 seconds. To see him tamed, it was really boring and it was really disappointing. And it was a fight that I thought was foolproof. I thought there was no way we could get a boring fight, and we got a boring fight, and it not ruined, but was kind of a damper on what was a freaking awesome event, man.
It's almost like if you're like if you have a sibling and you're wrestling your little brother or whatever, and you just hold him down and you just kind of keep slapping him in the head, not hard enough to really hurt him, but just enough to piss him off. That's what the whole 25 minutes was. He was just bigger. He's just laid on top of him. He's just kind of halfway smacking him in the head with the gloves, doing no damage whatsoever, but just enough to annoy him. It's like, haha, I've got you down, can't get up. And so I put obviously a lot of blame on DDP for not being able to get out of that situation. But yeah, like there were, you know, not many attempts for subs. It was just, hey, I'm going to shoot for a takedown. I'm going to put you on your back. I'm going to lay on top of you, and we're going to do this for 5 minutes. You'll get up when the bell rings, and then we'll get back in this position as soon as we start back up. It was super boring. It sucked.
3 different times, Mark Goddard, who might be the best referee in the sport, 3 separate times stood them up because there was nothing happening. That right there is an issue. Like, that is and he gave them plenty of time before he started doing it. When you have the referee standing you up because nothing is happening, that's when you know you've got a little bit of an issue. And the crowd was very pro Khamzat, but even they were bored.
I'm with you fellas on that. I totally agree. But I also laughed because I always see just random social media chatters on occasion of people talking about the fights and stuff. And I was like, oh, It's like I do want to reach out, and sometimes in our group text, be like, "All right, guys, what happened?" But then I'm like, I'll probably know about it on Monday. Get the full recap of the controversies that surrounded it and everything too. So, tell you what, we're going to save our summer topics for tomorrow because I know we had a lot of stuff to get into today, so we can save that for tomorrow. Presented by Freedom Boat Club. Before we get out of here for the day, the real few chats and everything. Appreciate everybody tuning in because I know it's we got a lot to talk about. But hey, that's what happens as we get closer to football season. A lot more is going to be going on. Heartbroken Hog says, for he been a member for 2 months, so shout out to Heartbroken Hog. Appreciate it, man. It says the idea that any Arkansas fan expects to win a title right now is asinine. It's also asinine for them to suggest Arkansas can never compete for a title ever again, which, I mean,
I would agree with that only because I don't think you can really realistically look at any program. I know football is a little bit different where you have to have things go your way, but it's like I don't really think you could look at any program. Like hell, I wouldn't look at Boston College and be like they can never compete for a title in football. Like who the hell knows? Like I don't know how the landscape's going to change. I don't know what they got going on. It's like I don't think you can really look at any Power 5 program and be like never. Unlikely, and we all agree with that. But I do think that's also stupid. Anytime you suggest that, it's kind of tough.
Yeah. Also, let's see. I guess Ace was saying, I know we don't talk firings, but my God, someone should be fired for the epic Tesla fumble. I think we've talked about this. It's like, I just don't understand. It's like, I get that you're upset, but we're talking about preseason in the NFL for crying out loud.
You know what's interesting about it though is we kind of go to the thing of like there's weirdos in every fan base or whatever, but he's had these awesome catches and big moments throughout the preseason and stuff. And I saw a thread where there were hundreds of comments just absolutely crapping on Tesla for that touchdown catch because the route he ran sucked. Like it's the worst route that's ever been run in the history of football, and people just going off on him after the catch that he made for the touchdown. So
can't win for losing, I tell you.
Maybe he wasn't running Bobby's routes right, and that's why he wasn't getting targeted there.
Well, it also is funny because that's the one thing that Tesla did very consistently at his time at Arkansas is he would make these like crazy catches, contested catches every now and then. So it's like, again, like I think people forget how much Tesla played football at the University of Arkansas. He played like 800 snaps as a Razorback in 2 seasons. Obviously, could they have used him better? Should he have had more success? Sure. But it's like, it's not like the guy was buried and like didn't get opportunities to have success. He got plenty of opportunities. He had some success with some of those opportunities, and seems like he's going to have a pro career. I used the Cody Hollister example. It's not terribly dissimilar from that. Like Cody Hollister was a guy that played a little bit of Arkansas, hung around the NFL for a couple of years. For most people, probably not like a guy we tell our grandkids about, but for some reason we're dying on this Isaac Tesla hill.
Also, real quick, Petrino's playbook says Daniel Sheen needs to be added to the no slander list. Guys, do I need to add him to it?
Yes. Yes,
but
you do.
That should have been my worst of the weekend. The amount of people who were like clutching their pearls about Daniel Sheen. Listen, he could have worded it better. He admitted so himself, and to Daniel Sheen's credit, was a man and like apologized when he didn't need to Pittman and publicly. The amount of people who were like actually butthurt about that is insane to me. I actually thought if anybody was in the wrong there, it was Pittman because he cut him off and was like, "Oh, was there a question in there?" when he was trying to get to the question. And I think Pittman felt bad about it, which is why he changed his tone immediately.
Yeah, I feel like I wasn't one of those things that I heard in the press conference that I was like, oh yeah, everyone's going to be talking about this, and like awful announcing, putting out the story on. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah,
people was making stuff about it.
Yeah, people take any opportunity to do stuff like that, and I was encouraged because I know he tweeted or whatever, like quote tweeted somebody who clipped the video and was like, "Hey, I screwed up, my bad, apologized, whatever, wish I could take it back." And a vast majority of the people who responded, and included like other media folks that were like, "Hey man, you're all good. We appreciate you. Live and learn." And that was all great. It's the vultures who are out there just looking for clicks to capitalize on, a mistake somebody else makes. It's also the folks there are a lot of folks who are, crapping on Danny Shee about it and, about fumbling the mic, and everything like that. Folks that would absolutely piss down both legs if they were ever handed a microphone to ask Sam Pittman or anybody else a question. You know what I mean? It's like the people who are trying to, crap on him for that. And it's like, what have you ever done in a situation like that? Literally nothing. So yeah, I feel bad for him. And we also know him, we know he's a good dude.
Sure.
Daniel Shee's a rare breed. He's a different cat. An awesome guy, and he takes this stuff very, very seriously. I knew what he was getting at. It didn't come out right, and it sucked that some people were trying to get their own clout based on a tough moment for somebody else. But
yeah. Well, and then the last thing I'll say about it is just like I'm about intention when it comes to things. It's all about intent, and if you just take all your own emotions out of it, what was Daniel Shee's intent? It was not to do what people trying to like make it out to be, and it's like we all make mistakes, but it's about what my favorite movies of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves says. There's no such thing as perfect people in this world, only perfect intentions, and it's true. So as long as the intention's there, it's one thing. But yeah, it was just a crazy deal. So all right, a few quick chats here before we get out of here. Camel Gang says, "Is BP the most overrated, overhyped coordinator in the country?" No, shut up. We also got Austin that says, "Y'all and Mr. Pate are my get through summer podcast, but man, Josh doesn't sound too high about him. We're crazy thinking am I crazy for really thinking we can win 6 if we start pretty the first handful of games?" I can't read today, so yeah.
You're having a hard time. It's all right. No, you're not crazy at all for thinking that Arkansas could win 6 games this year. That's not crazy at all. And also, it doesn't make you accepting of mediocrity. It makes you accepting of like the reality of a situation. I'll probably pick them to win right about that, give or take, So I think it's kind of where I'm at. I listened to Pate's thing this morning, and he did say basically one of his under locks for the SEC was Arkansas under 5.5 wins. And his whole thought process behind it, he even said, he was like, "Hey, they got Taylor Green. I like Taylor Green. Like they could pop off and win 8 games and it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world." His whole deal was with that schedule early. Like if you lose momentum early with some of those games, and then you're already kind of down and out of it, you're wondering how much you have to play for. Are we going to make a bowl or are we not? And then you got those, the back-to-back swing at LSU and Texas, and then like that things could go off the rails. Because he was saying the 5.5 wins is assuming that you get the best version of Arkansas every game against that schedule. But if things go south on you early, you very well may not get that, and it could be an over. And that's actually, I think it's because I've heard Trey say this, where he's like, this team might go 4-8. They might go 8-4 and nowhere in between. And I think what he's getting at is, hey, if you get off to a really hot start and you build some momentum and some equity there, then that's the kind of stuff that can carry you to an extra win or two. If things don't go well early, or you get some injuries early and you find yourself in a hole and you're looking down the barrel of the rest of that schedule, it could get dicey on you in a hurry. So I think I understand what he's saying there.
We have to retire the sentiment of, if things go well, this team could go X, but if things go bad, it will go Y. This is the laziest take of all time. I cannot believe how many people do it week in and week out. But no, I think to the question, you're definitely not crazy for thinking Arkansas could win 6 games. I actually think it's hilarious, regardless of what you think Arkansas is going to do, that people, it seems there's so many people that cannot see a path to anything else. You know what I mean? Like, I'm probably going to pick them to go 5-7 on Saturday when we do our predictions. Spoiler. But that's not to say that I don't see a path for them to go 6-6, 7-5, hell, even 8-4 if like everything lined up. I also could see a path to 4-8. I could also see a path to Taylor Green getting hurt and they go not 3-9 and everyone's fired. You know what I mean? Like there's pathways to everything, and in the SEC there is like zero margin for error, but it's that way for everyone. And so yeah, I mean, it's certainly not crazy to think Arkansas could go 6-6. I think like hell, the over/under is 5.5. It's like basically means it's a 50-50 thing whether they go 5-7 or 6-6. So nobody should feel shame for feeling what they feel. Thinking, hey, this team could do this, because there's a lot of things that could happen. So yeah, I don't think anybody should feel shame for any of their predictions. Hell, even if you're like, hey, I think they're going 10-2. Like, even if I disagree, like I don't think you should like be thinking you're crazy.
All right. Well, guys, we're going to do this again tomorrow, by the way. And the show is once again going to be late tomorrow, just to let you know, because Bobby Trino is speaking at noon. So, just to give everybody a heads up. But a lot of things that we have to get to, and we're going to continue to get to and everything. So before we get out of here, though, guys, any final thoughts before we roll out?
No, not today.
My final thoughts are, Daniel, she's the man. That's all I have for you.
That's good. I have 2 final thoughts. One, I did not realize that making this I guess, an observation that wearing sweatshirts in 100-degree weather outside is weird, because there's a lot of people that took issue with that from the other day that I said, and just throwing it out there. And also, too, this is not going to anyone specific, but just all you people out there that love to use my name and use me as some sort of like argument's sake that does another podcast or does some other stream or whatever it is, you can stop. I know it's never going to, but I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm tired of getting you clicks and giving you things. So just keep my name out of your mouth and quit saying dumb stuff. That's all I'm going to ask. That's all I'm going to ask. Either way, appreciate all of you though. Yeah, appreciate all of you who listen in and watch into Inside Arkansas Live. Be sure to subscribe to us here at Inside Arkansas on our YouTube page. You can also check us out on social media at Inside Arkansas, and you can also find our podcast in the audio form wherever podcasts are found, whether it's Inside Arkansas Live, Pod at the Palace, or the Bombastic Podcast. And that'll do it for us today. For Andrew Ellis, as well as Curtis Wilkerson, I am John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel. Tomorrow at around 12:30. We'll see you then, folks. Have a great rest of your day.